off your engine!
Well, here's bad news for used car drivers, and my fans have been asking me about this, and it is true. Turns out that used cars have made their biggest price jump in 51 years. People are shunning public transportation, and they want to buy a used car, and the prices are going up. That's a problem when you live in a capitalist economy like ours. When something becomes popular, people start charging more money for it to see what they can get out of it. Now they say that the price of living last month went up 0.4%, but the price of used cars went up 5.4%. So there's quite a differential there. And from what I've seen personally, they've gone up a lot more than 5.4%. I've had people bring me cars they were thinking about buying used. And I mean, people were asking like $6,500 for a car that last year, you could pick up for $4,000 or so. People are really asking a lot more than they used to, and I guess they're getting them because people keep asking more, and if somebody buys, then they just say, well, look, he sold his for that, I'm going to get the same amount of money. So if you're looking at used cars now, it may not be the best time to buy. You might wait till Christmas time, because from my experience, Christmas time, people need money for gifts. A lot of times, sad but true, people get laid off from their jobs from these fascist corporations that don't care. There's a lot of people selling cars around then, and they don't sell all that well. And when people are selling more vehicles, the price goes down, because when there's a big overextended market, the price goes down because there's a bunch to choose from and they can't charge as much. But as it stands now, the price of a used car is at an all-time high, so maybe hold off buying that used car. Keep your old junker running a little bit longer. Danny Rand says, Scotty, big fan. I want to know, should I replace my 2011 Hyundai Sonata GLS with 124,000 miles? It shakes when it's idling. I took a deal. They said it's a transmission. It's going to cost $3,000 to $5,000. Do you recommend fixing it? Because they gave me a free new engine about 6 months ago because it broke down. I should get a new car. Think what you just said. Definitely go get you could use Toyota or something if you don't want to buy a new car. That thing's only got 124,000 miles. They already had to replace the engine. And let me tell you something. They didn't put a brand new engine in. They never put in a brand new engine. It's almost always a used engine. I've got friends that run junkyards, and as time goes on, especially with Chinese competition, as parts get cheaper, their business is going down the toilet, because what would you rather do? Go buy a used alternator for $110 at a junkyard, or buy a new Chinese one for $100? Of course, you're probably going to buy a brand new one, right? So their business is like, pfft. I said, how do you guys make money anymore? They said, well, the way we make money is when we buy a wrecked car, immediately we will sell the engine and transmission to the dealers to use for warranty work. Almost all the time, when you get a new engine, it's a used engine from a junkyard. Don't think that it's that good of an engine. And putting $3,000 to $5,000 into a Hyundai Sonata with 124,000 miles, that is foolhardiness, especially if it was the $5,000. I paid $3,000 for my wife's Lexus ES300, and it had 60,000 miles on it, and it runs like a clock. Get rid of that junker and never buy another Korean car. It's a good lesson to be learned. Little F101 says, Scotty, how you doing? I've been seeing this friend for a while, and they add Lucas oil stabilizer to the engine with the new engine every time they do a change. Let's say you're going to put this on a new car. Is it necessary, or is it a waste of money? Pretty much waste of money on a modern car. Modern cars, the oil is getting so well made. Like if it says take a 0 W20 oil, that's full synthetic oil. It's very well made oil. You don't need any additives. And if you put in a thing like Lucas Stabilizer, you're going to mess the viscosity unless it's exactly the same. It's going to make problems in the long run. So yeah, don't put it in a modern car. Not only is it a waste of money, but it could cause problems. Finding some old junker, like an old American car that takes 10 W30 and the engine's wearing out and it burns a lot of oil, go ahead and put it in. It can help a little, but don't use it in a modern engine. Not only is it a waste of money, but it could be dangerous. Grizzly Goat says, I got 2004 C320 4MAT, a weak alternator. I put in a regulator and brushes, but it won't charge. What else could go wrong? Rebuilding alternators to do it correctly. I know a guy's got a shop. That's what I use if I've got an oddball one. Let's say it's a Jaguar or something, and they cost $600. I'll have this guy rebuild them for me for $120. Normally, I'll just go to a good auto parts store and buy an already remanufactured one that comes with a lifetime warranty, and I don't have to think anything. But in the oddball ones, they cost more. I take it to him to get them rebuilt. He's been doing it for 45 years. He knows what he's doing. He's got all kinds of equipment. You can't just put a regulator and brushes and think that's it. There's circuitry involved. There's diodes that change it from alternating electricity to direct electricity. That's why they're called alternators. When I was young, a lot of cars had generators. They generated electricity, but they don't work that good at low speeds, and they don't put out as much input. So then they went to alternators, but to make direct electricity, alternators have to run it through diodes to go from alternating to direct electricity. You'd probably have to replace those two, and there's all kinds of circuitry that can go wrong. My advice, don't rebuild it. I understand now. You've got a Mercedes. You're trying to save money fixing it. Don't buy a Mercedes. They're not cheap to fix cars. Take it to a rebuilder. See if the guy can fix it. But I mean, look at all the hassle you're going through. You should have just gone out and bought a rebuilt one already. They had a guarantee. That makes more sense. I personally don't even rebuild them anymore. It's too much hassle. Same thing with starters. I used to rebuild starters. It's like, you can get a good one for $100 with a lifetime guarantee. Why the heck would you go through the trouble of rebuilding the thing? And you're not going to rebuild it correctly yourself anyways. Do you have a lathe at home so you can run the commutators back over to make them perfectly flat? You don't have all that equipment, so why bother? Buy one already rebuilt or a new one. F. Tanavi says, Scotty, my Toyota FJ Cruiser 07 has 140,000 miles. It vibrates when I'm driving between 40 and 45. When the RPMs are around 11,000. It lasts for 3 to 5 seconds. I press the gas pedal, it goes away. Sometimes it vibrates from 4th to 5th gear. What do you think? I think you had a typo there, because if you didn't, you got a really super FJ Cruiser. You said 11,000 RPM. Those engines can't rev that high. So I'm assuming you mean 1,100 RPM. Now, what you want to pray is that it's something in your drive shafts and not in the transmission. But sad but true, it's probably in your transmission, because you said it lasts for 3 to 5 seconds. If you press the gas pedal, it goes away. That's usually an internal problem inside the transmission. When you step on the gas, that gives more power and it stops doing it. So you probably have an internal transmission problem, but pray it's a CV joint or drivetrain joint, some joint that's wired out. It could very well be. Pray it's that. It's a lot cheaper to replace a universal joint or a CV joint than it is to rebuild the transmission on that thing. Brandon Barrera says, Scotty, if you were buying a brand new car, would you be more likely to get a Subaru or a Honda? And why? Thanks. Oh, I definitely get a Honda, hands down. Honda is a very excellent engineering company. They make cars that can last really well. If you go back 20, 30 years ago, Honda and Toyota were racing neck and neck for the best made cars in the world for the money. Honda did slip a little compared to Toyota, but they still make excellent vehicles. Subaru, they don't make that many vehicles. It's not their big business. I think it's one of these biggie heavy industry ones, Fujimoto or something. It's some big company in Japan. And cars are kind of a sideline to them. It's not that big of a deal. Their boxer engines are old design, have a tendency to blow head gaskets. They make horrible automatic transmissions. The Hondas are so much better made that I wouldn't even think about buying a Subaru versus a Honda. Much better car. Dilshan says, I was wondering if a 2016 Lexus 350 can handle unpaved gravel roads and snow. I don't want to buy an SUV. Can a front-wheel drive sedan do the job? It can handle snow. There's no problems with that. But the real problem is, you say unpaved gravel roads. That's got a relatively low clearance. You're not going to be taking that out in the country and mud roads with big potholes. You're going to bottom the car out and rip all the plastic stuff off the front of the car. Now, if you're just talking about a gravel road, okay, if it's just there and it's flat. But if you're going to a place that's got a lot of potholes and stuff, it's too low to the ground. Modern cars are made for efficiency. Lower to the ground they are, the more efficient they are, the less drag they have. But they're not made for taking off-road. So, you might think, do you need something a little bit higher? You might need something a little bit higher if you're going to talk about driving on crummy old country roads with dirt and rocks and stuff, because you would be better with a higher up SUV if you're going to be going on crappy roads all the time, and that's just because of the clearance, that you're going to have more clearance. Charlene 10 says, I got a '03 GMC Yukon. It starts and stalls, and then in the middle of the dash, the message says, unknown driver, help me. That's a good one. I guess your truck doesn't know you anymore. It says unknown driver. Well, when it says unknown driver, from my experience with those, it's always a problem in the computer part called the body control module. When you put the key in and turn it, it's supposed to recognize the key and go through and then say, oh, well, it's the right key, no one's stealing me, and then it allows the vehicle to start. Now, it does this in milliseconds, so you don't notice that much of a lag when you turn the key, but there is a millisecond lag while it analyzes that stuff. Well, whenever it says unknown driver in those GMs, from my experience, it's almost always a bad body control module. If it's a key itself or something, it just won't start, and it'll generally have the theft system will flash. But when it says unknown driver on your middle panel in your information center, it's almost always a bad body control module. I don't know, something about the software and those things. When the body control module goes bad like that, where it starts and stalls, it says unknown driver, it means you need a body control module. So pay a mechanic to replace that, because when you replace it, you got to reprogram it. You can't just buy one yourself and put it in. So, but odds are that's what it is. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.